Okay, so welcome everybody. We got our evening starting at 5 o'clock, so let's go ahead and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance of the flag and the prayer. Mr. Stepp, you want to go ahead and say the prayer?
Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for this time. We thank you for all that you are and all that you do, not just here in Talbot County, but throughout our wonderful state, throughout our wonderful country, and throughout the world. Father, thank you for a wonderful 9/11 ceremony yesterday. Thank you for being there for all those who lost a loved one, for all those that it impacted, and for all those who never even experienced that, who will learn about that day that will forever live in infamy. We say all these things and ask all these things in your most precious and holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Stepp. Appreciate that. Okay, let's start off with the agenda is before us on September the 12th. Is there any additions, deletions, or corrections to the agenda?
Yep, Mr. President,
Yes.
one small change in the agenda, which is to remove item 10G under County Manager's Report, the request from the Neighborhood Service Center for a letter of support. So I'll move the agenda with that one item removed.
Okay.
Second that motion.
Okay, we got a motion second to change the agenda. Madam Secretary, could you call the vote?
Mr. Callahan?
Aye.
Mr. Stepp?
Aye.
Mr. Lesher?
Aye.
Ms. Milky?
Aye.
Ms. Hayes? Aye.
Okay. All right, moving on to the minutes. We have August 22nd before us. Are there any additions, deletions, or corrections to the minutes? So hearing none, the chair moves that the minutes be accepted as unanimous consent. Okay, the next is on the disbursements of August 29th, September 5th, and September 12th. Council's had a chance to review it. Is there any additions, deletions, or corrections to disbursements? No. Okay. Hearing none, the chair moves that the disbursements be accepted as unanimous consent. Okay. All right. Next up is proclamation of a National Senior Center Month. Madam Secretary, could you please read the proclamation in the record?
Proclamation, Senior Center Month, September 2003, Discover Yours. Whereas older Americans are significant members of our society, investing their wisdom and experience to help enrich and strengthen our communities, and whereas senior centers act as catalysts for mobilizing the creativity, energy, vitality, and commitment of the older residents of our communities through a wide array of services, programs, and activities, affirming the dignity, self-worth, and independence of older individuals by facilitating their decisions and actions, tapping into their experiences, skills, and knowledge, and enabling their continued contributions to the community. And whereas the wide array of services, programs, and activities offered at Brooklet's Place, the Talbot County Senior Center, and the Bay Hundred Senior Center empower the older citizens of Talbot County to contribute to their own health and well-being and the health and well-being of their fellow citizens of all ages. And whereas during the pandemic, Brooklet's Place and the Bay Hundred Senior Center served as community partners, helping to ensure that our most vulnerable citizens, people aged 65 and older, many with underlying medical conditions, were cared for and able to stay connected, safe, and healthy. Now therefore, we, the County Council of Talbot County, do hereby proclaim September 2023 as Senior Center Month in Talbot County, and call upon all residents to recognize the tremendous contributions that senior centers make toward the betterment of our communities by strengthening community connections and recognizing the outstanding efforts of the staff and volunteers at the Talbot County Senior Centers, who work every day to enhance the well-being of the older members of our community. Given under our hands in the Great Seal of Talbot County this 12th day of September in the year of our Lord, 2023.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Okay,
Second.
We got a motion second to approve the proclamation as presented. Madam Secretary, could you call the vote?
Mr. Callahan?
Aye.
Mr. Stepp?
Aye.
Mr. Lusher?
Aye.
Ms. Milky?
Aye.
Ms. Hayes?
Aye.
Okay, you guys want to come on up?
Oh, up there.
Yeah, you can come on up. I didn't know if you wanted to say a few words. Yeah, we say a few words. Okay.
We can say it.
Okay, no problem.
Good evening, or good
Yeah.
afternoon, everyone. First of all, thank you for the proclamation. I just want to make you aware that next week, we're going to have all types of good activities going on. You'll receive information on that. But one of the things that we are doing during the month of September is we have a collection jar set out, and we're having donations that will be used to go to the food bank, the Maui Food Bank. So even if you can't come over to participate, you can send some money over. A dollar here, a dollar there, every little bit counts. But we just thank you so much for all of your continued support.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, too.
Yeah.
We've continued to add new members at our center. It's like, where are they coming from?
Yeah, yeah.
But,
That's good.
And it's good, it's great, and things are going well, and we really appreciate your support. We're also celebrating Senior Center Month there with some new programs, a few celebrations, and then a vaccination clinic at the end of the month that they'll be getting their COVIDs and flu shots. It was very successful last year in partnership with Pemberton Pharmacy. So,
That's one thing I forgot to add. On Friday of next week, we'll be having a health fair with a lot of the local agencies there with health information, and they'll be doing blood pressure checks and different things. I'm hoping the health department will have some updated COVID information to be able to distribute out to people.
Okay, great, great. Okay, council, anything? Or?
Mr. Hollis?
We're good, we're good.
We're good?
I do want to point out that nothing warms my heart more than hearing Ms. Moran read a proclamation.
She's good.
Fond
She's
memories.
real
No,
good.
Just never miss an opportunity to thank the council for your support. It is because of you that we're able to offer the programs that we do, and these two
Yep.
fine ladies are the reason we're so successful.
Sure are.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Okay.
so much for keeping our community vibrant.
Good job, Larry. Okay, next on the agenda is an introduction of an administrative resolution. Madam Secretary, could you read the resolution, please?
Administrative resolution to change the starting time of legislative sessions of the County Council of Talbot County, Maryland. Whereas pursuant to Section 212G of the Charter of Talbot County, the Charter, the County Council of Talbot County, Maryland, the County Council shall adopt and publish rules of procedure not inconsistent with the provisions of the Charter and may amend the same from time to time. And whereas pursuant to the foregoing authority, the County Council has adopted rules of procedure. And whereas pursuant to Section 1B1 of the Rules of Procedure, the County Council shall meet at least twice a month on Tuesday at a time determined by a majority of the County Council, with the second and fourth Tuesdays of each month being reserved for legislative sessions. And whereas legislative sessions of the County Council typically start at 6 p.m. And whereas on June 13, 2023, the County Council adopted an administrative resolution for the purpose of changing the starting time of its legislative sessions to 5 p.m., the intent of which was to have legislative sessions start earlier during the summer months. And whereas the county council is desirous of changing the starting time of its legislative sessions back to 6 p.m. during the fall, winter, and spring months only. Now therefore be it resolved by the County Council of Talbot County, Maryland, that legislative sessions of the County Council in the months of October through May shall start at 6 p.m. unless otherwise specified by a majority of the County Council. Be it further resolved that legislative sessions of the County Council in the months of June through September shall start at 5 p.m. unless otherwise specified by a majority of the County Council. Be it further resolved that this administrative resolution shall take effect immediately upon adoption. Introduced by the County Council of Talbot County, Maryland at a regular meeting on September 12, 2023, at which meeting copies were available to the public for inspection. Adopted by the County Council of Talbot County, Maryland at a regular meeting on September 12, 2023, at which meeting copies were available to the public for inspection. Given under our hands in the Great Seal of Talbot County this 12th day of September in the year of our Lord, 2023.
Okay, thank you, Madam Secretary.
Council
yeah.
President,
Yes,
Council, I think that the county attorney's made me aware that there's been an amendment to this resolution.
So just to clarify, as it was originally drafted, it was changing it back to the 6 o'clock start time during the spring hours and going forward, and then would go back to 5 o'clock during the summer months that we've been doing. And speaking with Councilmember Lesher, he indicated that he just wanted to change it back to 6 o'clock going forward. So I think that was the version that should have been read. I don't know, there might have been a mix-up in what got into Granicus.
Okay.
So what you're saying is you don't want to go back to 5 anymore, you just want to do 6 year-round?
If we could. Or, I just think for public access, we still can, now, is this a two-meeting process? This can be a one-meeting process because it's an administrative resolution?
Sure, so you could go ahead and vote on it, it would still change to 6 o'clock going forward, and then we can always revisit the issue before next summer and decide if we want to go back to the 5 o'clock start time or just make it 6 o'clock
That will
going
leave the
forward.
question, that we can do that, proceed
Yeah.
with what we have in front of us.
So,
Okay. Yep,
So if we
that's
use
false.
this resolution, then we go back to 6 o'clock, but then for the summer months, it would be
It leaves it
5
open.
o'clock?
yeah, so.
Starting in May.
We still have to come and
But this-
make a resolution to do
We
that.
have to do another one?
No,
This
this would make a change for October through May in any year going forward. If we want to readjust our summer starting hours, that will require further action.
Yeah, I got you.
So this resolution, this administrative resolution is drafted and is read, would provide that then your next meeting will be at 5, and then starting in October, the meetings will be at 6, and will continue until,
Into May.
through the end of May of 2024.
Right.
So
Yep. That's
that
fine.
would, and then we can revisit it, near that
Right.
time frame, whether you want to move it back to 5 o'clock
Yeah.
for the
Right.
summer or keep
I
it at
got you.
6.
Okay, all right, sounds good. All right, so,
So the way
Is
I
there a-
read
is
it,
it-
I thought that it meant that it would automatically go
It
to
is
5
automatic.
o'clock,
I
the way
read
it's
it to be
read.
Yes.
It will,
Correct.
yes.
I read it to be
If we do
Come in
nothing
June.
else going forward, if you decide in April or May that you just want to go back to the 5 o'clock during the summer, that's how it works. If you want to leave it at 6 across the board, that's going to require another administrative resolution at that time.
Okay,
right,
okay, got it. Okay,
got it.
So as is, it goes to the summer, 5 o'clock. Okay,
Yep.
that's fine with that. Okay, got it.
okay. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second,
Okay, we got a motion second?
this is,
Yep, Keisha. Right,
Oh,
there
talking
we
to
go.
the microphone,
Yep, got a
sorry.
motion second. Madam Secretary, could you call the vote?
Mr. Callahan?
Aye.
Mr. Stepp?
Aye.
Mr. Lesher?
aye.
Ms. Milky?
Aye.
Ms. Hayes?
Aye.
Okay, great. All right, next on the agenda is introduction of a numbered resolution. Madam Secretary, could you go ahead and read that, please?
A resolution to amend the Talbot County Comprehensive Water and Sewer Plan for the purpose of adding or modifying the Talbot County Capital Project for fiscal years 2024 and 2025 to add a new capital project in the amount of $12.0 million for the purpose of replacing and/or rehabilitating the Town of Easton sewer collection system to mitigate inflow and infiltration.
Okay. Mr. Thomas, you want to comment on that, or
Yeah, I'm gonna
Mr. Clark?
defer to Mr.
Okay,
Clark on this
okay,
one and the
yep,
next one.
okay.
Thank you.
How you doing, Mr. Clark?
Good. We received an application
Can
from.
you tell people who you are?
I'm Ray Clark, County Engineer, sorry about that.
Okay, no problem.
We received an application from Eastern Utilities to go ahead and amend the Comp Water and Sewer Plan to add a capital project for their sewer collection system. They have identified the areas and ultimately the total price of $12 million. One of the things that both Eastern Utilities as well as the Talbot County Sanitary District will need to do is we need to have these capital projects introduced into the Comp Water and Sewer Plan, so it positions us for going to the Maryland Department of the Environment for funding. So this is really to assist us as part of that funding mechanism with MDE.
Okay. All right, any questions? Okay. At this time, is there hands to introduce this resolution?
Oh, sorry.
So introduced by council.
This will be known as Resolution Number 345, and the public hearing will be on Tuesday, October 10th at 6:30 p.m.
Okay, great. All right,
Next one is a resolution to amend the Talbot County Comprehensive Water and Sewer Plan for the purpose of adding or modifying the Talbot County Capital Project for fiscal years 2024 and 2025 to add a new capital project in the amount of $8.0 million for the purpose of replacing and/or rehabilitating the Region 5 TILGHMAN sewer collection system to mitigate inflow and infiltration.
okay.
And council, again, we're positioning the Region 5 Sanitary District for funding. One thing we'll be doing with this project is kind of mimicking what we did in St. Michael's. We'll actually be improving the roads as well as the sewer collection system. So when we're digging up sewers, we'll go ahead and work to improve the roads as well as manholes.
Okay, good. Any questions, council? Okay. Once again, raise your hands if you want to introduce this.
So introduced by council.
This will be known as Resolution Number 346, and the public hearing will be on Tuesday, October 10th at 6:30 p.m.
Okay.
Next one is a resolution to amend the Talbot County Comprehensive Water and Sewer Plan to provide the equivalent dwelling units for all phases of the lakeside development.
Okay. Mr. Clark?
At this point, I'll defer to Patrick on this item.
Yeah, I can address this one. So, per the council's direction at our last meeting, in response to the letters we received from MDE dated April 24th, May 9th, and July 21st, we have drafted two resolutions. This resolution will amend the water and sewer plan to set forth the phases for the lakeside development and the EDUs for each phase. It also provides the existing water and sewer classifications for each of the phases and the number of EDUs in each of the classifications.
Okay. Mr. Clark, you want to say
I'm
anything?
good.
Okay. Okay. Council? Anybody? Okay.
So as we introduce this then gets referred to the Public Works Advisory Board and the Planning Commission.
Yes, that is correct.
Is it worth, in this case, seeking a workshop with the Planning Commission to ensure that we are heading in the right direction in terms of do we just get a simple up or down recommendation from the Planning Commission, or are there tweaks to this that might help resolve what Lakeside is calling phases, but really are neighborhoods and have nothing to do with the sequencing of the way the development is going to be built out?
Could you clarify that?
I'm not sure what you were saying. Yeah.
So what became clear in the last workshop was that what Lakeside called phases is not actually the sequence, the order, of how Lakeside would be built out, and they have I think it's a 5-module wastewater treatment system that and clearly need additional MDE approval for each of those modules. is there, what conforms to each of those modules, including in their build-up, because it clearly is not the phasing plan that the town and the developer have given us for, as is represented in this draft resolution.
Well, I think when we were talking through the phases, I don't think they had a concrete phase because they weren't sure.
No, they had 5 phases, I believe, which they led everyone to believe would be sequential. And now they're saying.
I don't think they said that.
Yeah,
I don't think they said that,
well,
but maybe they did.
I think
Okay.
there's something to support that. So,
Okay.
the idea is now they're saying that they want to not conform to sequential phases, but they want to do a few houses in phase 1, a few houses in phase 2. And so it is a different presentation of their plan than it was back in 2020. Am I explaining that correctly?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't seem to, what they call phases are not what I think we had all understood were the sequential build-out of the development.
I think that we, clearly in the resolution, it states that the planning commission has to certify as it relates to the Maryland code, and I think for that reason, we move forward with the resolution and let planning commission decide if it's consistent or not consistent with the comprehensive plan, and then take it from there. I don't think a work session is necessarily needed. I understand the phases, and I understand that they say they may want to do phase 1 and then phase 3. All of that is consistent with the W1S1. That is their prerogative to do that. So therefore, I think we focus on the resolution, let it go to the planning commission, let the planning commission determine the consistency, and then we deal with that once that comes to us and our public hearing.
Okay. All we're doing tonight is introducing
Introducing the resolution.
That's all we're doing tonight. Okay. So show of hands of introducing it.
Introduced by Haith and Stepp.
Okay.
This will be known as Resolution 347. The public hearing will be on Tuesday, October 10th at 6:30 p.m.
Okay, that's great.
So will we have the planning commission's recommendation by the public hearing?
Yes, currently, my understanding right now, is we'll be getting this to the planning office tomorrow. They need to have 3 weeks, and this would be on the planning commission's agenda for October 4th.
Good,
Okay.
good, okay,
Thank
great,
you.
great. Next, Madam Secretary.
The next one is a resolution regarding the Talbot County Comprehensive Water and Sewer Plan to clarify and confirm the water and sewer classifications of certain parcels incorrectly shown in Exhibits A and B to Resolution Number 281 as amended.
Okay.
Again, council, I'll defer this to Patrick, but these are the same maps that we worked with the council at a work session on, so I'll turn.
So, as we discussed in detail during the work session on June 27th, there were several parcels in the town that were not part of Resolution 281, and their water and sewer classifications weren't affected by the resolution. But they were incorrectly shown on the exhibits to the resolution. They was having the colors of the parcels was incorrect. So this resolution simply clarifies and confirms their classifications as a corrective measure. It's not changing or amending any of the water sewer classifications in the town. Again, MDE said they wanted us to do a resolution to clarify this, so that's what this does.
Okay, all right. Raise of hands to introduce.
Oh, yeah, I'll introduce it.
Same thing. Yeah, yep, all good.
Yep.
This will be known as Resolution Number 248,
Okay.
and the public hearing will be held on Tuesday, October 10th at 6:30 p.m.
What
I
was
think
the
it's
resolution number?
348. I think it's 348, Susan.
348, I'm sorry.
She said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I just didn't hear it.
Yeah. Okay, next.
A resolution to amend the official road name list for Talbot County to change the names of Lincoln Road and Shell Mill Avenue to Bellevue School Road and Turner Avenue respectively in the Village of Bellevue, Talbot County, Maryland, pursuant to Section 131-5C of the Talbot County Code.
Okay.
Council, on these, anytime we have to change, or we're looking at changing a road name, we would need, we have to present that to the county
Sure.
council for their review and approval. So ultimately, I think we've worked with the property owners down in the Bellevue area, and this is what they've requested for the change in names.
And Mr. Clark, these are today paper streets that have not yet been developed, and therefore there are no existing addresses on these streets that
That is correct.
will be facing a change of address.
Yes.
Okay. A raise of hands, introduction.
So introduced by council.
This will be known as Resolution Number 349. The public hearing will be held on Tuesday, October 10th at 6:30 p.m.
Okay, great. All right. Thank you, Mr. Clark. Okay, next on the agenda is introduction to legislation.
A bill to authorize Talbot County, Maryland, the county to borrow not more than $880,000 in order to finance and refinance improvements to certain wastewater facilities in the county, and to effect such borrowing by the issuance and sale of one or more series of its general obligation bonds payable from ad valorem taxes to be levied by the county, exempting the bonds from the provisions of sections 19-205 and 19-207 of the local government article of the annotated Code of Maryland, authorizing the consolidation of separate series of bonds into one or more bonds, authorizing the refunding of such bonds, and relating generally to the issuance and sale of such bonds for such purposes.
Okay. Martha and Ray, you want to come up?
Again, this is pretty much the final step in securing the loans with rural development. This has been associated with the sewer work that we've been doing in St. Michael's. So at this point in time, we're trying to finalize that final step in having this bill introduced and then ultimately voted on by the county council, and then that positions us to a point of having going to closing on the loan funds.
Okay. Any added words, Martha?
We've just been working with
Can you
US.
tell people who you are, please?
Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
Martha Sparks, Finance Director for Talbot County.
Yeah.
We have been working with our bond council and USDA Rural Development on all of these steps.
Okay, great, great. All right then, so introduction, or raise a hand to introduce.
So introduced
Okay.
by council.
This will be known as Bill Number 1548, and the public hearing will be on Tuesday, October 10th at 6:30 p.m.
Okay. All right, next up is public hearing. Okay, Madam Secretary, could you go ahead and read Bill 1547 into the record, please?
Bill Number 1547, a bill to amend Chapter 11 of the Talbot County Code, alcoholic beverages, regarding operations of Class 1 alcohol dispensary bistros.
Okay. So we'll go ahead. Mr. Thomas, do you want to say anything about this, or?
Sure, just
Yeah.
briefly, this
Yeah.
bill was requested by Zach Smith on behalf of the ward room. The intent of the bill is to expand the bistro seating into the wine shop and expand the hours of operation in the bistro area from 11 a.m. to 9 a.m.
Okay.
Additionally, the configuration of the seating area would require the Board of Liquor License Commissioner's approval.
Okay.
But that's just a brief overview of the bill.
Okay, that's great. Okay. All right, so this time I'll go ahead and open it. And if, I'll give you 3 minutes. If you're speaking for a organization, I'll give you 5 minutes. So I'll go ahead and start over here and open the floor if anybody would like to come on up. Okay, and then I think Zach wants to come up. Come on up.
Good evening. Thank you, council. For
Yeah.
the record, Zach Smith on behalf of Blue Point Hospitality. Appreciate you considering this bill and giving me an opportunity to speak. As I'm sure the council may know, Blue Point operates several small businesses in downtown Easton, one of which is the Wardroom, which is a small restaurant and small market at 103 North Washington Street. And the Wardroom holds a Class I alcoholic beverages license, which allows it to operate both of those components under a single license. And one of some of the restrictions that have created issues for the Wardroom and its operations are the prohibition against opening for business at 11 for the restaurant, and then a limitation that prohibits any seating for the restaurant to be in the market area. And so to address those issues, we discussed with council and with the county's attorney, Bill 1547, which, if adopted, will allow us to begin opening for business at 9 a.m. And I would just note that standard restaurant liquor license allows operations to begin at 6 a.m. We're asking for 9 a.m. And they would also allow us to propose to the liquor board some additional seating. There's not a lot of opportunity to add seating for the restaurant, but there is a few opportunity to add a few seats in the market area. And those changes are somewhat small, but important for a small business like the Wardroom. And importantly, it'll allow us to begin offering breakfast and to accommodate a few more restaurant patrons, which is certainly good for us and good for our patrons, but I also think is good for the community, right? Because the town and the county benefit from having successful restaurants in our downtown that contribute positively to the vibrancy of that place. So we ask you to support Bill 1547 and allow us to move forward. Thank you.
Mr. Smith, before you go,
Sure.
a quick question. I know that of course, Talbot County is unique in the state in being able to adopt its own liquor license and regulations. And so we're fortunate in having this local form instead of having to go to the state legislature to make such a change. Does the existing Class I license not allow the restaurant to open at all before 11 o'clock, or does it simply mean that if you are open, you cannot sell alcohol before that hour, and that's just such an integral part of the restaurant operation?
I would have thought the latter, but based on the conversations between the Wardroom folks and the county's enforcement folks, the understanding and interpretation is that the restaurant cannot open until 11 a.m. So that's my understanding.
Okay, thank you.
And Zach, I want to ask a question because a few people have reached out to me about this.
Okay, sure.
So can you help us understand? So not only when it is opened, why they can't sit over there and you're doing extra seating, because it is a little bit confusing.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, and just for our example, but it
Yes.
applies generally, I think, to bistro licenses.
Yes.
The current legislation says that you can have seating in the bistro area, but what you can't have in the bistro area is the display of alcohol for sale for off-site consumption. And so bistro licenses allow an establishment to have typical restaurant service where you have on-site consumption as part of a meal service, but you can also sell alcohol for off-site consumption like a package store. And so under the current rules, you cannot display alcohol for sale off-site consumption in the bistro area. Now, our store is very small. The wine shop is very small, but the restaurant is very small. And so what we'd like to do is to place, I think, 1 or 2 tables in that wine shop area. But because there's display of wine and other alcohol for sale in that area, we're prohibited under the current rules from having that seating. And so what we proposed is text that would say, we can present that to the liquor board, and if the liquor board deems it appropriate seating configuration, it can authorize us to add those additionals.
But I just want to make sure we're clear. So this isn't sort of a bill that we're going to sell more liquor.
No.
Yes, this is just strictly written for more seating.
Correct. For more seating for the restaurant.
Correct.
No, this won't change the type of alcohol that can be sold.
Yes.
Or when it can be sold in terms of the market. It would just allow us to expand the restaurant seating area and begin opening the restaurant for business at 9 a.m.
Okay. Yeah, I got you. Any other questions?
No, but I definitely concur that they need more seating in
Yeah.
there. I was
Yeah.
in there with my daughter last week, and it's tight.
That's true, and I've noticed anecdotally, when I drive by, it seems
It's
very
tight.
busy, right?
Yeah.
So Zach, should we just simply call this the Mimosa and Bloody Mary Bill?
It would authorize that, you know, consistent with what you can do at the Tidewater Inn and other restaurants already in East. Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Zach.
Zach.
Mr. Thomas, did you want to say anything, or?
I did. Ms. Morris just pointed out to me, there are actually I believe two other Class I license holders. So this would affect them as well. I don't think the language is in any way detrimental to them or their
To them.
operations. And,
Okay.
I don't believe we received any comments from them, but and Ms. Morris relaying that, I thought it was important to point that out for the Okay. All right. I guess at this time, Madam Secretary, can we go ahead and can we vote on this tonight?
Yes,
Okay,
if you
so-
bring it to third reader.
Okay.
You would
all right.
have to make a motion to move this to the third reader, because normally this would be the second reader, and you would go to third reader at the next meeting.
Okay.
So you would have to,
Okay.
somebody
So
has to move to.
how's council feel about that?
I make a motion to move to third reader.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All right, we got a motion and a second to go ahead and move it to third reader.
Mr. Callahan?
Yes.
Mr. Stepp?
Aye.
Mr. Lusher?
Aye.
Ms. Milky?
Aye.
Ms. Hayes?
Aye.
Okay.
Now the vote?
Yes.
Mark, you want me to read it again?
It needs to read the
It-
title.
She needs to read the title, yes. I was going to let her read the title. Yep.
Bill number 1547, a bill to amend Chapter 11 of the Talbot County Code, alcoholic beverages regarding operations of Class 1 alcohol dispensary bistros.
Okay. Okay, do I have a motion?
You
Or
can
don't
just
let-
ask her to
yeah.
call the roll.
Okay, I'll just call the roll then. Madam Secretary, could you call the roll?
Mr. Callahan?
Aye.
Mr. Stepp?
Aye.
Mr. Lusher?
Aye.
Ms. Milky?
Aye.
Ms. Hayes?
Aye.
Okay, great. Okay. All right, next on the agenda is clay stuff. Yeah.
So your county manager report this evening, Mr. Council President. So the good news is, a few weeks ago, we appealed to the public to volunteer for boards and commissions. So you asked and they answered.
They sure did.
So I have 6 requests this evening for your appointments to 6 different committees. The first one would be the Adult Public Guardianship Review Board. There are a total of 7 vacancies. The Department of Social Services is requesting council consideration to appoint the following people: Rachel Smith from Londonderry, Carrie Oddie, RN from Talbot County Health Department, Kate Stenton as a lay representative, Dr. Michael Flaherty, physician representative, and Sam Van Nest, disability representative, and the reappointment of Susan Ludwig and Dr. Michael Crowley.
Okay.
I will move the appointments as forwarded by staff.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion second for new appointments. Madam Secretary, could you call the vote?
Mr. Callahan?
Aye.
Mr. Stepp?
Aye.
Mr. Lusher?
Aye.
Ms. Milky?
Aye.
Ms. Hayes?
Aye.
Thank you. The next is the Animal Control Board. We're asking council consideration for the, the appointment of Joan Trudy Lee and Dr. Stephen Harris to be reappointed to the board.
Okay.
Motion to approve that request.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion second to reappoint on the Animal Control Board. Madam Secretary, could you call the vote?
Mr. Callahan?
Aye.
Mr. Stepp?
Aye.
Mr. Lusher?
Aye.
Ms. Milky?
Aye.
Ms. Hayes?
Aye.
Thank you. The next would be the Commission on Aging, requesting the appointment of Mr. William Bowes, Amy Keller, Ann Shanahan, Brenda Stone, and Sandy Whelan to the Commission on Aging.
I'll move the appointments as forwarded.
Second.
Got a motion second. Madam Secretary, could you call the vote?
Mr. Callahan?
No.
Mr. Stepp?
Aye.
Mr. Lesher?
Aye.
Ms. Milky?
Aye.
Ms. Hayes?
I need more information on that, so I'm not privy to vote at this time on those appointments.
Okay. Thank you, Council. The next is the Mid-Shore Behavioral Health Regional Advisory Committee. MSBH is requesting the appointment of Crystal Miller, licensed clinical social worker, and Sean Hart, CEO of New Day Start Behavioral Center, to the Regional Advisory Committee.
Okay.
I'll move the
Motion?
appointments.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and second. Madam Secretary, could you call the vote?
Mr. Callahan?
No. Excuse me, yes. Sorry.
Mr. Stepp?
Aye.
Mr. Lesher?
Aye.
Ms. Milky?
Aye.
Ms. Hayes?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Parks and Recreation Advisory Board requesting the appointment of Jay Kilborn Jr. to represent the Cordova District on the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and second. Madam Secretary, could you call the motion?
Mr. Callahan?
Aye.
Mr. Stepp?
Aye.
Mr. Lesher?
Aye.
Ms. Milky?
Aye.
Ms. Hayes?
Aye.
Thank you, Council. That completes your board and committee appointment for the evening. The next item I have is I'll ask our health officer, Maria, to come forward, please. We have a request from Talbot County Health Department for budget certification for local matching funds. As you read in your agenda packet, the Maryland Department of Health has notified Talbot County Health Department the local matching funds for FY24 have increased by $123,658. This was presented after the county's FY24 budget had been adopted. Dr. McGuire is here to present the information and answer any questions you may have, following which I will ask for your approval to certify the Core Public Health Services Funding Agreement for FY24, as well as to send a letter to Dr. Herrera Scott, Secretary of the Maryland Department of Health, stating the county's frustration and concern with this late notice. Dr. McGuire, thank you for being here. Floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Stamp. Thank you for having me this evening. So as Mr. Stamp said, I'm Maria McGuire. I'm the health officer for Talbot County and director of the Talbot County Health Department. So just in brief and essentially reiterating what Mr. Stamp has said, I'm coming to you tonight with just a request to officially certify what's called the annual local matching funds required under COMAR 10.04.01.04, which allows the county to provide the required percentage to fund the health department that matches what the state has funded. And this certification will result in that increased appropriation to the Talbot County Health Department in the amount of $123,658. And again, that will allow us to comply with the COMAR regarding this funding level. The issue at hand and why this wasn't done sooner was essentially because the amount in question, that's the discrepancy, is above what was initially agreed upon in our normal budget process. The mechanism through which the state determines what constitutes the local matching percentage was debated until this time and clarified. And so tonight I'm coming to ask to see if we can meet the request from the state to increase the appropriation.
Okay, great, thank you. Discussion, council? Okay.
Just a question about, look, this is an increase in matching funds that comes with an increase from the state. And can you describe what the funding will be contributing toward in what Talbot County will get for this additional funding.
Exactly, yes. And so what's essentially been the impetus of this required increase is the fact that the state has increased its state funds for local health departments across the state in each jurisdiction by a significant percentage. They, compared to last fiscal year, they estimate that the overall percentage has increased 55%. Now, the bulk of that increase has gone to, there's different components of this funding from the state. There's a base award, which has not changed, and that's written in law as to how that's calculated. There's what's called a formula growth, which accounts for inflation and population growth. For Talbot County, that formula growth difference for this year is only about $49,000. And so again, that's to account for inflation. And this again is the state portion. And then the bulk of it, which for Talbot County this year is $1.5 million, accounts for annualized salary increases, COLAs, state mandated salary changes in the state personnel system. And those are, like I said, annualized, so things that were decided years ago have to continue to be funded. And in addition to which, any fiscal year 24 COLA, that's the portion that's funded out of that. So the vast majority of the increase is going to salary increases, and this was in direct response to decisions made to improve the vacancy rate in public health across the state and in the state system in general, and to more closely align with the salaries that we find in fields such as nursing, social work, so that we can be more competitive and reduce our vacancy rate. The health department had at the state level had a significant vacancy rate, and so that's something that we've been trying to address. And so how this will help actually with the county funds is to address some of those same HR and recruitment issues that we've been facing.
And certainly, not just the health department, but all levels of government, and for that matter, private industry, has been responding to the both inflationary pressures and the exceptionally tight job market to the challenge of recruiting. This didn't come as news at the beginning of the year. It was certainly known at the time that the legislature adjourned in mid-April. The request finally came through 2 weeks before. To you, I believe, 2 weeks before the start of our fiscal year on July 1st, and is reaching us now a couple months into our 2.5 months into our fiscal year. We're certainly, and we've talked about letting the state know about our consternation about this process. Am I missing anything there?
No, I share in that consternation, and I have asked that for future fiscal years that we are told well in advance what the actual local match will be, because previous to this fiscal year there were not such broad increases in the state. That was a direct result of these state salary adjustments. And so I have been given assurance that for next fiscal year there will not be a big jump, and furthermore that the amount that is required under the matching COMAR will be known to us prior to the county budget season, which is essentially the issue of why this is happening now as opposed to during the normal budget season when we would normally present it to you.
Okay.
Mr. Stamp, because this is an unbudgeted expense, do you have recommendations about how we might go about this?
Yeah, we've been meeting, Martha Sparks and I, as finance director, and one of the challenges we have is the Talbot County Charter is very strict when it comes to altering, meaning adding to funds to the budget after it's been struck. So our staff's recommendation is that council authorize the president to sign the obligation. We'll monitor this, and with the health department. If they come in under budget, which they have in the past, we can resolve it that way. And if they don't, then we'll come back to council in the fourth quarter for the use of contingency to cover the $123,000, $123,658. And to send a letter about our concern, more about the respect of the time frames involved.
Okay.
Thank you.
Did you want to add anything?
Thank you, Mr. Lusher. Any other council member like to speak on this?
Do we know if this amount will increase in future years? The calculation will be changed in the future?
So for fiscal year '25, we expect the amount to be essentially flat. We do not expect any big increases. And so that is essentially up to what the state decides, but they are anticipating keeping it flat for next fiscal year. And ultimately, not to get into too many details, there's a reset on the core funding formula in fiscal year '25 anyway that was put into legislation several years ago. And so the end result amount that we will see at the local level should be very similar to what we're dealing with for this fiscal year.
Do you know how the 123,000 compares to other counties at all? Like
Yes.
neighboring counties?
So, so each county has a different, what's called match percentage, which was written into COMAR in the mid-90s. And so there were different levels of, so the ask for this year affected counties in different ways. So for instance, counties that have a very low match, compared to how that compared with what their county budget was already set at, it may not have affected them. So for effectively half of the counties in the state, they were what's called undermatched as a result of these salary increases this year. They tended to be the counties that were on the higher end of what's called the match percentage, of which Talbot is one of them, not the highest. So for Talbot County, for the counties that are facing a discrepancy in their funding, as Talbot is, we are actually facing a much smaller discrepancy than some of the other counties, which are often reaching the multiple millions.
Thank you.
Any other council member? Okay.
So we need council action to sign the certification.
Yeah, and again, staff's recommendation is that council president be authorized to complete the form that's required to obligate us to the full amount, which would be an additional $123,000. I want to make sure that figure is right. $123,658 that would be either realized through savings through the performance of their budget or applied contingency in the fourth quarter. That would be the vote of support for that. We would have to come back for specific use of contingency if that were to be necessary in the fourth quarter.
I will move this allocation as articulated by staff with that forthcoming letter expressing our consternation about the process. We know that the county is subject to the sovereign entity that is state government, and it just is always frustrating when the sovereign entity expresses its status in this form.
Okay. Do I have to put this in form of a motion?
Well,
okay.
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 I apologize for the editorial content.
Okay.
I started that with a motion.
Okay. Do I have a second? Okay. We don't.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item I have, council, I'm going to ask Ray Clark to come forward. Request from the Department of Public Works to negotiate with the lowest responsive and responsible bidder for bid number 23-07, Talbot County Public Safety Complex Phase 1, building renovations, Easton, Talbot County, Maryland. As you read in your packet, the Department of Public Works requesting council approval to negotiate with the lowest responsive and responsible bidder on this Willow Construction LLC to complete value engineering to determine if the county can achieve some cost savings prior to award of the contract. Ray will add any detail and answer any questions relative to this.
And again, council, for you and the general public, the base bid for the building addition, which is basically HVAC equipment, along with walls, moving the walls and whatnot. The base bid was $3.9 million. Add alternate number 1 was $9,200, and add alternate number 2 was $360,000. If we were to award all, the base bid with the 2 add alternates, the total would be $4,269,200. What we're looking at trying to do right now is work with Willow, a local contractor, to do some value engineering and see if we can't find some savings in this prior to awarding the project. We've met with the Department of Emergency Services as well as the Sheriff's Office and our architect, which is Davis Bowen Fidel, and this is typically a standard practice to try and come in, see if we can't do some re-engineering and see if we can't find some cost savings together with the contract.
Okay, that's great. Okay. So do you need anything from us?
It'd be a motion
Okay.
in the form of a vote to support this.
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion second. Madam Secretary, could you call the vote?
Mr. Callahan?
Aye.
Mr. Stepp?
Aye.
Mr. Lusher?
Aye.
Ms. Milky?
Aye.
Ms. Hayes?
Aye.
Thank you, Ray. The next item, council, that I have for you is a request from the Department of Parks and Recreation to award a contract for Perry Cabin Ball Field fencing project. As you read in your agenda packet, the Department of Public Works and Recreation, the Department of Parks and Recreation is requesting council approval to piggyback on a University of Maryland modified contract award to Long Fencing Company, the contract for the project at Perry Cabin Ball Field. The contract will not exceed $100,000, which is the amount of the grant, and will be fully reimbursable under the Community Parks and Playground grant parameters. You remember that we came in and gained council approval to partner with St. Michael's to apply for the grant. And I'm happy to inform council that the Board of Public Works with the state approved that, and now we're asking to be able to procure the fence by piggybacking on the contract.
Okay.
Motion to approve the award contract request.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion second to go ahead and approve the fence at Perry Cabin Park. Madam Secretary, could you call the vote?
Mr. Callahan?
Aye.
Mr. Stepp?
Aye.
Mr. Lusher?
Aye.
Ms. Milky?
Aye.
Ms. Hayes?
Aye.
I ask that we'll bring back your favorite county engineer one more time. He is here to recommend the award of change order number 23 for bid number 1709, St. Michael's Pump Station number 3, upgrade and rehabilitation. And without reading a lot more, I'm just going to hand it over to him to complete the rest, and I'll fill in what he might miss or
Okay.
not.
Again, council, we were back in July advised by the rural development that they had additional grant funding for doing sewer collection system work. At the same time, we have been doing road improvements, so we put together, per rural development's request, they had an existing project. They were trying to look to utilizing those some of the grant funding that they had. So we have requested with Schumer Incorporated, who's doing work in St. Michael's, to go ahead and prepare a change order for Canton Street to replace the sewer and ultimately do road improvements. And that total amount was $321,673.80. What we're seeking to do at this point in time is get your all's approval to move forward with this. If we do not secure any grant funding, we will not pursue this project. So at this point in time, we want to work with rural development to get as much money, grant funding as we can. The other thing is if we are successful in getting the grant funding and any loan, that loan money would not be paid for by the sanitary district. It would be shared with either between the town of St. Michael's and or the developer that we're assisting in this matter.
Okay. All righty. Got a motion?
Motion to approve contingent upon the grant acceptance and
Okay.
award.
Second with the same stipulation.
Yep. We got a motion second. Madam Secretary, could you call the vote?
Mr. Callahan?
Aye.
Mr. Stepp?
Aye.
Mr. Lesher?
Aye.
Ms. Milky?
Aye.
Ms. Hayes?
Aye.
Thank you,
Okay.
Ray. Thank you, council, for that. We will not be bringing Ray Clark back up this evening unless you have a special request.
You have tires, I didn't know.
Oh, I do have, Guy, while you're sitting there, why don't we jump down to that?
Okay, sure, thank-
We do have an announcement.
Yes, I'll let you go.
Okay. I want to make an announcement that there is a citizen scrap tire collection event that's being hosted by Midshore Transfer Station in Talbot County, Saturday, September 30th, 2023, at 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. Ray, would you like to add anything to that?
Sure thing. This is on Barker's Landing Road. The address is actually 7341 Barker's Landing Road. Ultimately, individual citizens can bring up to 10 tires. There's only one load per household, so if you're going to bring your 10 tires, bring them in one load, and they will take those tires free of charge.
That's great.
So bring out your tires.
Bring out the tires. Gotcha.
Thank you, Ray.
Okay. Thank you, Ray.
Okay, just have two more items for you, council. The next one is, the Roads Department is requesting that we piggyback on a Maryland State Highway Administration contract for paving and resurfacing of Almhouse Road from US Route 50 to Maryland Route 565, White Marsh Road, to Maryland 333. As you read in your agenda packet, Superintendent of Road Facilities and Maintenance is requesting council approval to piggyback on a contract through MDOT with David A. Bramble to finish paving resurfacing of Almhouse Road from US 50 to Maryland 565, White Marsh Road to Maryland 333 for a cost of $182,000. There are sufficient funds in the FY24 budget.
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion second. Madam Secretary, could you call the vote?
Mr. Callahan?
Aye.
Mr. Stepp?
Aye.
Mr. Lesher?
Aye.
Ms. Milky?
Aye.
Ms. Hayes?
Aye.
And finally, council requesting a letter of support to the Maryland Department of Transportation for their communities, Reconnecting Communities and Neighborhoods program for enhancing Easton neighborhood access on US Route 50. As you read in your agenda packet, I'm seeking council approval to send a letter of support to the Maryland Department of Transportation's funding request to US DOT for their Reconnecting Communities and Neighborhoods program. If approved, grant funds would be used to add new sidewalks, raise landscape mediums, remove crossovers, and install new pedestrian signals at Maryland Route 328, Maryland Route 331, and US Route 50. No county funds would be required, as this would be a state project in the town of Easton. And of course, we also share this information with the town of Easton, who I'm certain would be taking action as well.
Okay.
Motion to send the letter of support.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion. We got a motion second to send a letter of support. Madam Secretary, could you call the vote, please?
Mr. Callahan?
Aye.
Mr. Stepp?
Aye.
Mr. Lesher?
Aye.
Ms. Milky?
Aye.
Ms. Hayes?
Aye.
And council, in my fervor to get through the boards and committees, I happen to neglect one committee that I need to bring up to you, and this is the Historic Preservation Commission. There are a total of 5 vacancies. We do have two interested individuals that would like to serve on that commission. Mr. Earl Ashe and Mr. John Rinda have submitted their letters of interest in serving on the Historic Preservation Commission. So we're seeking council support for their appointment.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, we got a
Beat me to
motion.
the punch.
Yep, we got a motion second. Madam Secretary, could you call the vote?
Mr. Callahan?
Aye.
Mr. Stepp?
Aye.
Mr. Lesher?
Aye.
Ms. Milky?
Aye.
Ms. Hayes?
Aye.
And that completes your county manager report. Thank you.
Thank you, good job. Okay, next, public comment.
We have one person who has signed up for public comment this evening, and that is Terrence Bernard.
Hey, Terrence, come on.
Shirt okay?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Terrence Bernard. I'd like to mention that a few weeks ago, we lost a board member from the Talbot County Board of Education. And then that person went to Oxford for employment, correct? Oh, that's right, can't
We
answer.
didn't lose them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, anyways, we lost that person, and now there's an opening there. And at that time, it was thought that it could be appointed by the board here, but it seems like there's a rule or a law that they need to be appointed by Annapolis. And it looks like there might be another opening, so it's really unfortunate that the board can't appoint, since it's locally here, members on the board is all I want to voice out here at this time. I'm not complaining anything. I subscribe also to the Dorchester Banner, and in here it says that Jamil Thompson is now appointed to new assistant superintendent, and he is a board member, Talbot County Board of Education Schools. So it looks like there'll be another appointment, but unfortunately that comes from Annapolis over the bridge, where we know our county here and members, and you all are qualified, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's all I want to express is, it'd be nice if they could be appointed locally. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, appreciate it. Okay, is that it?
That's all that's signed up in advance.
Okay.
So
Okay.
if you want to open it up for any of
Yep,
anybody
I'll open
else.
up to the floor. Sarah, coming up, Head of Communications. Okay, Martha, she's got her head down. Come on now. Okay. Okay. Okay, all right. So, all right, well, I'll close the public comment then, and let's do council comment. So, Mr. Stepp?
Sure.
Yeah.
I just wanted to, I alluded this in prayer, but I just wanted to extend my heartfelt thanks again to everyone who was involved with the 9/11 memorial ceremony yesterday. Mr. Lesher, wonderful keynote speech. A lot of folks in this room who contributed that, so I want to thank everyone for that. Susan, Clay, Jess, Sarah, Mrs. Kilman as well. Michael, thank you for navigating our technical issues after the rain. So rain and electric usually don't mix well, so thank you for addressing that. But a huge thank you to all of our first responders, both who responded then and that continue to respond today, as well as those who are protecting our rights and freedoms, both domestic and abroad. So thank you, and continued blessings to all.
Yep, thank you. Mr. Lesher?
Yeah, nothing further from me tonight.
Okay.
Nothing further from me.
Okay.
Oh my, I guess I'm gonna be the only one
You
that
got
has.
something,
Bring
you
us
got
home.
something for us.
Bring us home.
We'll be here a little late, no, just kidding.
Okay.
No, I just want to echo what Dave said, great job to Susan and everyone that helped with that, Sarah, the coverage. It was indeed a great ceremony as we pause and take a moment to forget, not to forget those that served, but also those lives that were lost on 9/11. I wanted to let the public know that there will be a Frederick Douglass Day Parade on Saturday, September 23rd at 10 a.m. Starts at Easton Elementary School and goes to the courthouse on that day. And then I wanted to mention that last week I met with a constituent who's looking for housing. She is a single mother. She works 3 jobs in Easton, and she lives in a 2-bedroom apartment paying $1,600 a month. So I am trying to work with her through the process of making an application to USDA to purchase a future home in Talbot County. But I just wanted to remind the council of that missing middle that we have in Talbot County. And also just to consider, when we have an opportunity, to consider a P3 partnership to do workforce housing for the people of Talbot County.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Thank you.
Here,
And
here.
yep, thank you. And I just want to comment too with my colleagues with the ceremony yesterday. Susan, you did a great job, and that's for sure. You worked really hard, you and Karen, to put everything together. We were meeting. You did a great job, and all the communications, and it was a great morning. And one of the special moments, and I didn't realize this until Mr. Stepson. So when the clouds broke, there was that rainbow. Yes. So that was pretty cool. And that told the story right there. That told the story right there, that the man above was looking down on us, and it almost brought a tear to my eye, to tell you the truth, when you said something. But that just shows you how special that moment was for everybody. So other than that, Mr. Lesher?
The County Council's next meeting will be held on Tuesday, September 26th, beginning at 5:00 p.m. The council will be convening an open session at 3:30 p.m. and then adjourning into closed session to discuss real estate, legal, and personnel matters as listed on the statement for closing that meeting. Therefore, is there a motion to adjourn this meeting and reconvene as noted?
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, got a motion, second. Madam Secretary, could you call the vote?
Mr. Callahan?
Aye.
Mr. Stepp?
Aye.
Mr. Lesher?
Aye.
Ms. Milky?
Aye.
Ms. Hayes?
Aye.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot. Appreciate everybody coming.